Hey folks, Scott Weingart here. I got an email message today from one of my heroes in medical education. That would be Joe Lex. Now, if you don't know Joe Lex, he is basically the man, does everything in emergency medicine, kind of on the not so young side anymore, and yet is on the cutting edge of providing FOAM, what we call free open access medical education on his site, Free Emergency Medicine Talks. And we'll show you that site in just a moment. But what Joe's message said is, I am going to gather together all of your podcasts and put them into one big file that people could just download. Is that okay with you? Now, you fit into one of two categories when you hear him say that. Part of my listener audience will say, well, that's just crazy talk. Why would we ever want that? That's just a big pile of difficulty. We have much better ways of dealing with podcasts. And the other half says, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. How do I get access to that? And so I wanted to talk through that because I think it's really important. I've done a video already on how to use RSS for blogs, and I think it's time we talked a little bit about podcasts so you folks out there now understand how this stuff works. Now, the idea Joe proposes is, on its face, it sounds good, but it really is not helpful, and in fact, in a lot of ways, it's detrimental. Now, aside from your ease of use, which I'll go into momentarily, it hurts the podcaster. It hurts folks like me. Why? Well, I'm doing this for free. And the way I could justify spending the inordinate amount of time it takes to do these podcasts for free is that the way I currently have it set up is this is my academic productivity. You see, I'm an academic, and you are very much under the paradigm of publish or perish in the academic world. Now, luckily for me, the institution I'm at actually regards these podcasts as something important. And therefore, they look at this as scholarly activity. And I have to track my downloads and prove on a fairly regular basis that I actually am participating in this scholarly activity and that I'm reaching you folks out there in the audience and that it matters. And in fact, I would argue that these podcasts allow me to demonstrate that far more than a ridiculous journal article because we have no proof anyone ever read it, and if they did, whether they changed their practice. On the other hand, I have hundreds of emails a day from you folks telling me I listened to the podcast and then the next shift I was able to use the stuff you talked about and it was helpful, and that just, in addition to warming my heart, demonstrates the gold standard in scholarly activity, which is not just dissemination but practice change. So right there, I need to be able to track these downloads. But you don't care about me. That's not important. The real reason is for you, because if you think this is a good idea, it means you probably are not managing your podcasts well, and you're not taking advantage of the power of what we call RSS, real simple syndication. Now, you could go to Wikipedia and get a very good explanation of what RSS is, and I don't even recommend doing that, because essentially what RSS is it's a way of me being able to conglomerate every new thing I do into a easily accessible form that your devices, your programs could read. Now, so once you understand that much about RSS, that it makes things easier, which is all you really need to know, the next thing you have to understand is I had recommended Google Reader for reading blogs. Well, for reading, I should say for listening to podcasts, you got to get iTunes. Just get iTunes. There's no reason to use anything else because iTunes is free, and whether you have an Apple device or not, you want to be using iTunes. Now, I'm in no way saying you got to go out and buy, a $600 iPhone. I'm not saying that. Just get the free iTunes, no matter how you are listening to podcasts. And I'm going to show you why that is. So here's the iTunes software right here. And this is not my real iTunes account. Wow. This is why you guys are all on Mac, right? Let's just ignore that. Okay. So this is a mock-up iTunes account, just so you're not cluttered by the, I think, 300 podcasts I listen to right now. These are just two very good ones, and you should check those out if you haven't. I'm a very big fan of both of those. Okay, so you have the iTunes software downloaded now. Now, what you would do is you would come to the MCRIT site, and you would see this apple here. It says subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Let's do that. Okay, so there we go. It's going to take me to my iTunes store. and now you will subscribe to the very free, and I think we try to make very excellent MCrit podcast, and we will subscribe to that now. Now, if I go back to my podcasts, what you will see is now the MCrit podcast is part of my podcast subscriptions. And in addition, Apple is nice enough to download the first episode. Now, let's say you wanted all the episodes. Well, then you'd right-click or you'd control-click on a Mac or something like that, because I'm a Windows guy, and you would say to, let's see where we could find this here. Oh, I'm sorry. You would click Get All right there, and it would download all of the podcasts that are on the MCrit feed of the RSS we talked about. And now you'd have a ton of podcasts. Now, I don't want to make you sit through that, so let's just download 3 podcasts in total and pretend that that is all of them. So they are downloading now. Now, here is the magic. Let's say you do not use an Apple device. And you're like, well, this is of no use to me. Well, it's of use to you in a few separate ways. First of all, you could use this as your way of, on your computer, playing the podcast. If I click on this podcast, the Karen Broey episode, which I think is quite good, and hit play, it's now going to play. And you can listen to it here. But there is more. Let's say you wanted to put them on another device that isn't Apple. Well, now you need to find these. If you right-click or control-click on any of the episodes and go to, in this case, Show in Windows Explorer, and I'm sure there's something comparable for the Mac, and click it, you will find the folder with not just the podcast you clicked on, but all of the podcasts for that particular show. And you could drag as many as you wanted, or just the one, to your device. And now this is managing in a much easier way than having a huge file, because you now have each show. For instance, let's say I wanted to download a hardcore history episode. Well, I'd go to Show in Windows Explorer, and now I could bring those over, and it's all managed for me. iTunes is doing this for me. I don't have to worry about, oh, where did I put that big file full of MCrit podcasts. Now, some of you, the astute ones, might have noticed that if you scroll down here, there is now every episode in existence is now in the MCrit feed. In the past, that wasn't It wasn't that situation. Now it is. So any of the folks who are saying, oh, the first few episodes, they're not there, where are they? They're there now. I fixed that for you. They're all there. So you could, if you wanted, just hit Get All, and you get every single episode in existence, and you could just drag them onto your device. Now, if you have an Apple device, they come right here on the left side of the screen. You just grab the episode and drag it right on. And that's as easy as could be. Now, Joe says, well, I'm still using CDs. Now, I would say, the reason for that is that Joe listens in his car. And that's just the easiest way. And I know a lot of my listeners listen in their car. And he's like, I'm making a CD, and that's why I want to just have this big conglomeration of the downloads. Well, that's not the way to do it either. If you're still listening to CDs, and I don't recommend it. If your car has an auxiliary jack, then you want to go down to your local Radio Shack or order on Amazon a 3.5 to 3.5 millimeter cord, which is just like a two-ended headphone jack. Plug that into your whatever device you have, and plug that into your car. It's much better. The quality is better. It's easier to listen. And just do that. Forget about CDs. CDs are dead. CDs are garbage. But okay, let's say you don't have one of those holes, or you don't have a listening device of any sort, and I'd recommend getting one. You could get the current generation iPod Nano for like $100, or if you want to go to the older generations, which in some ways are better because the screens are bigger, I think you get some of these for like $30 on eBay. It's worth it if you have the cash. If you don't, then okay, don't. But I would say at this stage of the game, you should just be getting an Apple device for listening to podcasts. And as you can imagine, I'm getting no money from Apple. They don't give money to anyone. But I just think they're the best devices out there for podcast listening. And then it makes management much easier. But let's say you're still like Joe and you're still listening to CDs. What you want to do is you want to go to your File menu of iTunes and just go to New Playlist. And call that playlist something like CDs for Car. Okay. Now I have a playlist down here, and I'm just going to delete this one down here so you don't get confused. So now we have a playlist called CDs for Car. And what you could do is each day, let's say you want to make a new CD. Well, you just grab the podcast you want. I shift clicked in order to get multiple ones chosen. But you could do this individually. Let's say you're a real Luddite, you don't know what I'm talking about. Grab a podcast that you want to listen to that day and drag it onto your CDs for car playlist. I'll do all 3 of these. And then if you go to that playlist, and here's where it gets really cool, and go to File, Burn Playlist to Disk, it will ask you to insert a disk. And preferred speed is how quick you want your burner to work. Always choose audio CD if you're using it in a car because that's going to be supported. And click Burn. You'll have instantaneous burning of those podcasts to your disk. You take it to your car and listen to it. And then all you do is just delete these from that playlist. It's going to say remove, but you're not deleting these files. You still have those files. Don't worry about it. Just remove them. And then the next day when you're ready, or the next week, depending on how quickly you listen, you're ready to make a new CD, just drag whichever, let's say we wanted to get one more episode, and you just drag that over to your existing playlist and burn that one to a CD. And now everything's being managed for you in one place. You don't have to go searching. You don't have to do anything complicated. So that's the first tip I want to give you is always use iTunes. Unless someone knows of a better podcatching software, use iTunes. It's free and it makes things so easy. So let me just drag that to your CDs for car. And now I could burn this one to a CD. So that's for you, Joe. I don't think many of my listeners are still using CDs, but that's for you because, Joe, I love you. You're the man. Okay, now let's go to Joe's site, okay? And let's talk about some of the problems I have with what is the best source of free emergency medicine lectures out here. I mean, Joe has basically eaten the lunch of things like Audio Digest that used to charge you really large amounts of money for what Joe is providing for free. Joe just basically goes to like every emergency medicine conference in existence with a little tape recorder and records the lecturers, and he puts them up for free because Joe is a good man. Now, you go to his site and you're going to see that they've now added a few links up top. And that's their entrance into a new generation. And look, there's the iTunes link. Now, when you click on that, you would think what you're getting is all of the free emergency medicine talks. But you're not. You see, when you click on this, and it's going to view it in iTunes, and they haven't set it up so it automatically redirects you. So just go to View in iTunes. And subscribe to that. I recommend doing that today if you're not already. But what you're going to get is this thing called Free Emergency Medicine Talks POTW, which is the pick of the week. Joe picks what he considers the most important lecture to listen to each week. And some weeks have more than one, which kind of eliminates. But maybe it's picks of the week. Even though, Joe, you should change this. It shouldn't be pick of the week. Let's make it picks of the week so we could not have any of the grammar nerds writing to you about the lack of plurality when there's multiple ones in each week. And if you hit subscribe free, I'm going to subscribe to that. What you will get is you will get Joe's picks of the week in your podcast feed. And so let's close down MCRIT, and there it is, Free Emergency Medicine Talks. I could get all these, and I'd be very happy, and I could drag them to CD, or I could drag them to my device. Remember that I could just right-click on and show in Windows Explorer, find the actual files, and I'm very happy right now, because these are some great lectures. I just listened to the Rich Cantor one today. It is perhaps the best lecture I've ever heard in my life. Richard is a master lecture, and I usually haven't listened to his stuff because I hate pediatric emergency medicine. This is worth listening to no matter what. So it's just really fantastic. And so now I'm subscribed to Free Emergency Medicine Talks Pick of the Week. But that's not what I want to be subscribed to alone. I want that because that's going to tell me what Joe thinks is really great. They're all great, but what he thinks is really, really great. But that's not what I want. What I want is I want a feed with every Free Emergency Medicine Talk, and then I could choose to download them or not, depending on my wants and interests. So you'd think you'd get this with this RSS feed. Let me show you some magic here. If you click an RSS feed, and you highlight that link, and hit Control-C to copy it, or you right-clicked on it, or Control-click on the Mac, and copied that link, you can now go into iTunes, go to the Advanced menu, and go to Subscribe to Podcast. And when you do that, you will get something that looks like this. That's the URL I just copied, and hit OK. now I have 2 free emergency medicine talks in my podcast section of the iTunes. And when I open up this, what I'm getting is every single free emergency medicine talk that's put on the site immediately goes into my iTunes, and it's going to download the most recent one automatically. And if multiple ones come out at the same time, then I could always hit get and download that too. I highly recommend Joe's International EM talk, and not just because he talked about me in it, but because it's just an insanely good talk. And now it's all here for me. But, and this is for you, Joe, there's only like 10 of them in this feed. Joe, you should be increasing that number to like 50 or 100. And I could help you with that, Joe. I could help you with all of this. I'm so happy to help you make free emergency medicine talks even more accessible. But this is a way to do it. And I think maybe after Joe listens to this, we'll get together on a phone call and actually put free emergency medicine talks, the full feed, in the iTunes store, as well as the pick of the week. And then they will both be easily discoverable in the iTunes store without you having to do that advanced thing. Okay, so I think I've justified why you don't want a big file of every EMCrit podcast. I don't want that because it hurts me academically. You don't want that because it's a really silly way of managing these things when you can do the same thing in a much easier fashion in iTunes. And I think it explains why you should be listening to free emergency medicine talks and how to download them properly. Now, you probably gleaned right from the beginning that this is not a medical podcast, and if you made it this far, it's because you care about this stuff, and most of you, I imagine, who don't or who already understood this got rid of this playback pretty much immediately. But I hope you, if you stuck with it, you got something out of it. And of course, comment on the emcrit.org site if there's any additional questions I can answer about this stuff, because this is the kind of stuff I think is really important to maximize your use of free online free open access medical education. Foam.